Alli, we all have times in our life of transition, but what are the secrets or skills or ways to manage those transitions?
And to find our new passions as we go. We have a great guest today, Miss Dee Webb, and she is a wildlife photographer, yoga therapist, co-founder of Focus Photo Tours, and yes sayer, and we want to welcome her to the show.
She has a lot of great insights for us. Before we dive in, let's thank Laura Dumpleton for supporting the podcast. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
I always think these podcasts are fun, and we do another episode, and then I'm like, wow, this one is going to be super fun. And then the next one, I'll think that. And today I'm very excited because when we were just chatting, I have so many questions, but we both said we're not going to ask her all the questions before the podcast starts. So welcome to the show today, Dee Webb.
I'm happy to be here and happy to answer all your questions.
We can't wait to learn more about you and what you have going on. So first, we just want to know a little bit about who is Dee Webb, what does Dee do? We'll start there.
So Dee Webb is a photographer. I love wildlife photography, and I am also a yoga instructor and mentor to many. So I live sometimes in Canada and sometimes in Costa Rica. I wear quite a few hats. I am a tour leader for the photography part of my business, and also do all the logistics and planning for a lot of the tours in Central America and Australia and all over the world. And then as far as the yoga part has gone, it's led into retreats that combine photography and yoga and mindfulness and how we fit into nature and be more present in our daily lives.
It seems that you have really combined a lot of passions, and I really want to kind of untangle how that happened, because I'm sure you didn't just arrive at being, wearing all those hats. So can you kind of break it down? Because we're all about having or helping women consider finding their passion or following what, brings them joy. And, if we hear a story of someone like yourself that has found a multitude of passions and then combined them to be, your vocation, like that's pretty inspirational. So let's break it down. Where did it start?
So my story, the universe had a plan for me. That's what I like to say. So for 27 years, I ran a day home out of my house in Okotoks, not very far from you. And I had a bunch of little kids in the house every day, and I loved my job. My kids grew up, and I kind of was facing that empty nest syndrome that I think a lot of us don't talk about in our culture. We're expected that it's supposed to be this happy time in your life, and I was devastated. Yeah. So I was facing that, and with my husband was going through a lot of health issues and some pretty significant mental health stuff. My stepson was having addiction issues, and there was a ton on my plate. So I had gone to a yoga class with a friend of mine out of desperation to find something for myself. And I found this little place that I could carve out as my own, and it was good, but it wasn't quite it. So I took my yoga teacher training, and again, it just wasn't quite it. And then I found out about yoga therapy, and I thought, maybe this is it. So I dove into this 2,000-hour training like it was going to give me life, and it changed my life. It changed the way I am in the world and changed how I walk through life and my perception, my mindset, all of those things. So for those people listening, my yoga journey isn't about putting my foot behind my head. I cannot turn myself into a pretzel. I'm a pretty big girl. I've always been very athletic, but the journey for me in yoga was really an internal journey. It was about my mindset and where I was, and I wasn't in a very good place. So
I want to interrupt you for just because I want to talk about that, because you said we don't talk about this a lot in our culture, about that empty nest thing. And I want to hear all about the yoga stuff. I want to also just go back to that, because I know we have listeners, even if they're not there now, and maybe that's behind them, but that can probably relate to the fact that that is a big transition for moms. And so can we talk about that a little bit? Can you share more about that?
yeah, so in my friend group, I'd had my children very young, and in my friend group, I was the first one to go through it. So all of my friends were like, "Yay, you'll have your life to yourself, and you won't have to do school lunches and all the things that go along with kids and dance classes." Honestly, all I'd ever wanted from when I was a little girl was to be a mom. So I didn't know who I was. I'd had children at 19. I didn't know who I was without my children. It didn't make sense for me to continue on this career that I'd made, to live in this house that I had. Like all of these things that were connected to having children. All of my connections in the community were like other dance moms and all the things that you do in the week with your kids. And I really hadn't made a community for myself aside from that. So a lot of us talk about, you should have a relationship with your spouse. Aside from being a family and the kids, you should make sure that you take time to have date night. Well, we don't take time to have date night with ourselves. So like, there's just no time. If someone would have asked me, like, what's your hobby? I would have, I didn't have one at that point. It was my kids. They took up my whole life.
And you wanted to be a mom, and that was like the thing that you wanted to, the one thing. So what would you do differently if you could go back? Because obviously you wanted to be a mom, and that was important to you. So are there things you would do differently now, having the hindsight that you have now?
So I think I was quite far along in my parenting journey and my journey of being a mom and a woman and a wife. What I would do differently now is I think I had some expectation that some external thing was going to bring me joy. So my husband was responsible for my joy, or, having a house and being successful in life was going to bring me joy, or my children being successful was going to bring me joy. And as you get on in life, I think you start to realize that your joy comes from within. And it doesn't mean that you need to be rich. It doesn't mean that you need to be in a career that is completely fulfilling. You can have those things for yourself, on top of, next to, all the things that you are as a mom, as a wife, as a career woman, all of those things. But you need to nurture yourself to find that.
We're going to interrupt this interview for just a second because we've got something we want to make sure that you know.
If you're struggling with your health, with your fitness, if you don't know where to start, or you know what to do and you're not doing it, we're here for you.
And all you need to do to get our help is to reach out to Shawna and I at our email, sapodcast23@gmail.com. And we're happy to help, and we will be in touch. Now back to the show.
So I think what Alli was, that's great advice.
Yeah.
But what would that look like?
Well,
you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like, because I'm also a parent, and I mean, while as a child, that wasn't my only dream, is to be a parent, but I was so happy to be a parent, still am, and you're in it when you're a parent, you're just busy. There
Mhm.
isn't much time for you. So it is so incredibly easy to get lost in it all. But
Yeah.
what actionable step could you give our listeners that maybe aren't there yet? We have a lot of young women that are, women that are in the thick of it. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that to take a walk. So every time you take a walk, you don't need to take your kids. It doesn't need to cost money. Go take a yoga class, take an hour a week, do something for yourself. Start to find that place where you find joy, something that speaks to you. Pick up a camera, take pictures with your cell phone. If you're at work and you have a lunch break, take a moment for yourself. Let your coworkers know that you're going to take a minute, and it's okay for us to be alone and take some time alone and not have to be with other people all the time. I think that would be my first piece of advice, is to carve a little bit of time for yourself and get quiet and, you know, be alone, be with yourself. Take that time to get to know yourself and what you like. Read a great book and don't feel bad about it. Like, just take those moments.
And I think as a mom, a lot of times there's the guilt that whether it's taking a moment to read a book, to do a fitness class, to go for coffee with a friend, to have a bubble bath, all those things seem like extras when I think what you're saying, and I agree 100%, is that those are not extras, those are essentials.
So a mindset that started to help me was, what would I want my daughters to do? So if I was counseling them on how to have a more fulfilled life or how to have a better balance, however you want to put it, how would I counsel them? And they needed to start seeing those actions in me. So they needed to see me take the time. I needed to put myself first for them to feel good about putting themselves first. We need to show our girls, our friends, our moms that we can choose us.
I think that's really great advice. And while you didn't do those things early on, like when you were in the thick of parenting, it's never too late.
It's never too late. My girls were in their teens when I started to choose myself. And actually, as the story unfolds, you'll hear that I live a lot, probably at the other end of the spectrum now for myself. And my girls are the first one to tell friends and family that I should be living my life and being happy and going forward and doing those things. And I'm watching them make those choices now for themselves. So it's never too late.
And I know they're super proud to see you and to get to know you in this phase and stage in life.
Yes. And I feel like I've affected a lot of my friends and their decision making. And whether it's like selling everything they own and moving to Costa Rica for half the year, or if it's just taking that yoga class, I feel like a lot of women in my life have watched and, hopefully taken a little bit of inspiration from how this has unfolded.
And it sounds like that it has really unfolded, like doing something little that yoga class has launched into. And that's what's amazing about how we can open one door and how many other doors that can open. We just don't even know what's possible or available. I'm sure if you were to talk to your old self and tell her who and where you are and what you're doing now, she would be like,
Yeah.
You're crazy. There's no way.
Yeah, I would have told you that you're crazy. My self-talk, my self-confidence was not great. I would have said, that I wasn't creative enough, or I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't rich enough, or I was, there would have been a lot of roadblocks. But yeah.
So let's get to where you are now, and let's talk about what doors have opened and how that's all unfolded.
Yeah, so I took this yoga therapy training and I started down the path of being a yoga therapist, which looks a lot like having one-on-one sessions with people that are dealing with a lot of physical issues in their body that has really come from stored emotions, traumas, things that have happened. and unpacking that. And through that, it really helped me because I had a lot of those things going on in my body as well. One of the doors that opened for me, my husband had camera equipment he wasn't using, and he was really encouraging of me taking it. I had this sudden need to be in nature. I loved nature as a kid. I grew up in Australia, and I grew up outside, and that's where I turned to when things started getting really hard in my life. I wanted that connection with nature again. So I started taking a camera, and I'd always been a little bit creative. I could draw with my kids, I could paint, I could do a bit of pottery. But again, I dove into photography like it was a university degree, and I don't do anything halfway. I go all in, and I am self-taught. I taught myself from YouTube. So for those people listening that think that there's a financial part to this, really, you could learn with your cell phone to start with. Like, you just need to start. So I ended up in Costa Rica, and I posted on a Facebook chat about being able to advertise your business, and I didn't realize that the Facebook chat belonged to a business. And in that chat, I ended up talking to the woman that owned the business. She offered me a job being a tour leader for a photography tour in Costa Rica. And I kept thinking the entire time, like, they're going to find out who I am. I like, have they seen my pictures? Do they know? And I really had to lean back into that yoga side and be okay with how this was unfolding. Through that connection, I ended up with an offer to be a partner in the business that I'm in at the moment. And it was just one of those universe moments that was perfect timing, the most amazing people. I'm incredibly blessed with the opportunities that were put in front of me. But I will say this, it was really hard for me to say yes, because I was still having those thoughts of, am I good enough?
That imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I really want to talk about that with, deciding to pursue your passions and, really diving into this entrepreneur type lifestyle. Like, you'll learn it. If you don't know it, you'll learn it. It's so easy to learn now. You can learn to make a spreadsheet. You can learn to do anything. Just say yes. So I had a friend that was diagnosed with terminal cancer. She came to visit, and we had this long discussion about, well, what if I said yes? And what if I said no? And she said, if you say no, you're always going to wonder, what if you said yes? And if you say yes, you might fall over, it might not work, but you're going to learn something, and then you can say yes again.
Wow.
And she was absolutely right.
Yeah. And what are the principles that you learned from the yoga therapy that have helped you with that? Because what I'm hearing you say is, well, with the imposter syndrome and just the talk that we have going on in our heads, the naysay talk or the, don't do it. What about the yoga therapy training, and the experiences you had with yoga helped you with that?
So much greater awareness of why this is coming up, and being able to sit with that and not just be like, I shouldn't do it. No, I can't do that. And so I have a much greater awareness at this point in my life. I've just turned 50 of, okay, why do I want to say no to that? Why am I uncomfortable in this? And then sitting in that longer and figuring it out. Is this something that, do I feel like my husband's going to want me to say no, or this makes him uncomfortable? Or is this actually mine? Is this, a feeling that I actually have? Being able to do that, to slow down, to recognize these patterns that I have in my life of doing these things and saying no and maybe choosing different. And being able to choose yes, And it's a bit of a habit. And yoga this yoga therapy training, and you really unpack these responses that you have and why, and how they turn up in your body, how they turn up in your self-talk. All of these, they come from, childhood. They come from other people. We're taught behaviors. We're taught to say no. We're taught, whoever told us, and it's becoming, our younger generation is getting it more, but whoever told us that we could have fun at work, like, your job was supposed to be inspiring and you're supposed to follow a passion. We were told, my perception of a job was that you were supposed to go to work and earn money and you could have fun after. Like, combining all of these things, really trusting in the universe has got your back. That's the other big one that you learn from this. I call it a way of life. Yoga is not what the North American perception is of yoga, going to a class. It is really a way of life and a mindset, and the way that we live in the world as a part of it. And as hokey as it sounds, the universe has your back every time. You just have to lean into it and you'll figure it out.
So some awareness of just not just within yourself, but beyond. And also, I'm guessing, whether it be yoga or something else, and I found this true for myself, when we do something for ourselves, regardless of what the discipline is, it's like we're investing in that us bucket that we maybe haven't invested in. And that does give us returns in our confidence, in our changing of the language that's going on in our heads, of like giving us more hope that we can do things, or even just more interest in testing out things versus just the life that we've known.
Yeah, try something new. And, it comes back to a lot of things that we were taught out of us, I guess. So when you were a kid and you played and you got self-confidence from being able to do something. So I think as women, as we get older, we need to really reinvest in that and play and feel inspired. And you can do hard things, like you can run a marathon, you can do your yoga class, you can pick up a camera, and it doesn't matter how old you are. What matters is your mindset around it, and having that idea that this could be fun and this could be play and you can do it.
I think going into any kind of adventure or endeavor with no judgment or expectation is helpful. And when you look at where you are today, that was not the expectation when you picked up the camera or when you went to that first yoga session or the yoga therapy. It was just one step led to another that led to another. And so if our listeners are thinking about, well, where's this all going to lead? The fun part of it is sometimes you don't know. It just unfolds, and it happens like these jobs that got offered to you. You didn't even plan on that, and maybe couldn't even, maybe you manifested it, but it just opened up for you because you made yourself open to it.
Yeah, that's the part, right? Where there's so many jobs we don't even know about. There's so many passions that you don't know about. There's when we, like as a kid, if you would have said, do you want to be a National Geographic photographer, I would have said yes. But this is this top tier 1% of the population, incredibly gifted people. So I feel like where I've landed is somewhere in the middle, and it might be a better job than that. So yeah, it's going with the flow and saying yes. That's something I really learned from my friend that passed away. If you can say yes, and just see what happens.
And I know that we talk about this phase when what you were going through as the empty nest phase of life. Another phase that I see with gals is that retirement phase, or when they're ending a career, or that's another phase in life where people, I see that can be a struggle of not having something to do on the regular. Maybe we stop having things to look forward to, and those are from another one of our guests, Elaine the Lane, said you got to have somebody to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And so I think that this is also something to think about for us, not just when we're in the empty nester phase, but in these other phases of life, where anytime we have these big life changes, where things shift, or where we were doing one thing and now we're doing something else, or that has been, for whatever reason, removed from our world. Because some people are also, their identity can be in their children, but also we can have our identity wrapped up in our jobs, in our careers.
Yeah, the other thing that I would say to that is, part of who you are is who you surround yourself with. And I came to a point in my life where my friends kind of divided, where it was like they were getting ready to die, or they were getting ready to live. So they were going to sit on the couch and crochet and wait to move into the 60 plus, living, or they were going to climb mountains and be the most amazing version of themselves, and they weren't going down without a fight. And I really gravitated to this group. I'm surrounded by the women that are 80 and ranked number 2 in North America for pickleball. Like, it's not just yoga. Like, just surround yourself with those women that inspire you to do better. It's contagious.
I love that. Yes. And so tell us more about where you are now and the things that have just shocked you the most about what you're doing now. You're in Costa Rica. How'd you get there?
So like many people, my story came post-COVID. So over COVID, I had continued to run my day home. I worked for mostly teachers, so they were still expected to go to work. And then I had to keep all these little children alive. Right through COVID. My husband, as I said, was suffering with very significant mental health. We had always discussed that once the kids had grown, that we would live a less conventional life. So one day I just decided that we were going to sell everything we owned, which we did. We put what was left in a storage locker. We said we would do this for as long as it worked. Our friends thought we were nuts. Everybody was asking what the financial plan was. To be honest, there wasn't one. I had hit the wall. So we did it, and we came down here. We rented a house. This is now year 4 of doing this plan. We go back to Canada. We live for 7 months. That plan now involves a lot of travel for me. This summer I was I started off in Alaska, and then I ended up in Brazil. I went to Churchill for polar bears. I went to Vancouver Island, and then we ended up back down here. All this travel for me, I've always, ever since I was young, I wanted to travel a lot. This travel for me, I still wake up thinking that someone's going to send me an invoice for living this amazing life, but I get paid to do this. It's incredible. Like, it's the most amazing thing. And I still have those moments of, are they going to find out that, I'm not the best photographer in the world, but I am better at calming those thoughts now, and that imposter syndrome that we all have. And I can tell you that, like, even being friends with some of the people that are at the top of their game, women that are at the top of the game, they still have those moments of imposter syndrome. So don't let that stop. I get to travel with the world with the most amazing people. But again, these women that are traveling with me inspire me every day. Some of them are in their 80s, and it's just amazing. I love it.
Well, just side note for our listeners, we met you, Dee, through another guest, Jen Ritchie.
Yes.
She's been on the podcast along with her husband twice, and I can see how you meet inspiring people that are sharing a common passion or just have a similar perspective on life of adventure. And you had previously mentioned that some of your friends were the ones crocheting, nothing, no shame on crafting, but it was their mindset that I'm going to sit down till I can go into that home where my meals are brought to me and I'm ready, I'm going. And you're in the other camp of like, life, what do you have for me? Yeah. So if you could speak to those people that have the mindset of the best is over, how could they switch their mindset to, hey, it's just the beginning, the best is yet to come? Any advice?
Oh, well, I would come back to who you surround yourself with is an important part. I think yoga was an intricate part of that. Not that everybody needs to run out and do a yoga class, but it's a very positive place. So find your positive place. So whether that's a little walking group or, whatever it is, find someone that is moving in the right direction and hang out with them. Take some of their energy. They'll inspire you. We have this perception that we get to a certain age and we need to be careful, and just pushing that boundary a little bit every day. Like, what if you walked up a hill? What if you did something a little risky? And I don't mean jump out of an airplane, just push yourself a little bit and see what happens. And then think about your mindset after that happens. Do you smile? Do you make yourself happy? Is it feeding you? And then keep going along that journey. So we live in this all or nothing, and you don't have to sell your house and move to Costa Rica, and just choose something small to change and see what it does for you.
I think that's great advice of surrounding yourself. And I know some people live in remote areas or they currently don't have that positive person, but you can find them if you open your radar to that. And the other thing that I like what you said is just the saying yes, because I think oftentimes it will surprise us. Just saying yes, and that tiny step will surprise you you may land somewhere unexpected and surprising.
We talk a lot about consuming sugar or what we put into our bodies, but people, and goes back to a yogic philosophy, is people don't consider what we consume mentally. So the podcasts, the conversations. So just by changing what you listen to, the type of music you listen to, find those things that start to bring you joy, and that can start to shift your mindset too. Like listening to a positive podcast or somebody that inspires something, read a book that inspires you. If you don't have those people, you can find it. You can make that shift. And I think I've also become really aware of the reaction I have to music, to a political podcast that's bringing my mental state down. Just being aware that I don't have room for this right now. I can't do this today. I'm not. Yeah.
Love that. I think it's so important what we consume from our phones, through our ears, and the people that we're around. And are they bringing more positive and light, or is it just more anger, sadness, darkness, weakness? So yeah. And now you're doing wildlife photography. Jen, who referred you to us, she's in episode 108, Jen Ritchie, and tell us more about and how people could find you, what it is that you're doing with wildlife photography, how that looks.
So I am one of the founding members of Focus Photo Tours, and we're a little different than your average photography tour company. We came together because there was some gaps in the industry. So we are very environmentally conscious when it comes to our tours. We are very conservation minded. And the other thing that we are starting to build out is women only tours, really holding the space to inspire women to be able to come out and learn. Sometimes it's really intimidating, especially in wildlife photography, to learn a new skill and do something that is a male dominated field. So we really feel like there's a place to blend this yoga, photography, these mindsets, the inspiration, and bring it all together for this really amazing space for women to grow and learn in. So that is part of what I do. We host photography tours all over the world. More often than not, they end up being a lot of women that are looking to travel together, to be with like-minded people. They've ended up traveling alone because their husband isn't interested. They don't have a husband for whatever reason. They've planned to travel in life and lost their significant other early, for many, many reasons. But yeah, so you can find me at Focus Photo Tours. It's a website, it's on social media, and
we'll have all your links
yeah,
in the show notes so that people can find you. But I do want to ask, if someone were inspired but thought, well, I don't really know much about yoga or photography, is there a place for them with you?
Yes. So through Focus, I actually run a mentorship program that we do. We meet monthly. And through that, we're building community. We have a group call. So we're building that community every month. And then having those private conversations about where you're at, and I can meet you right where you're at, and help you right from buying a camera to, maybe leveling up skills that you already have, taking some steps into the business part of photography and what that looks like for you, whether it's selling cards at markets or wanting to become a guide. Like, there's all kinds of avenues.
And both for men and women?
Both for men and women.
Yeah.
The retreats that I run at the moment are mostly for women, because we stay in the most incredible house. And it seems like women are wanting that space, like they are the ones driving this force. So yeah, it's Focus Photo Tours is for men and women, but there is a part of it that is focused just on women.
If you had a wish for our listeners today, Dee, what would it be?
I think we've already covered it, but I'm going to cover it again. So yeah. Say yes. Just say yes. Say yes more often. Practice saying yes. Teach your girls to say yes. Teach your mom to say yes. Teach your sister to say yes. Just say yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
And my wish would be that we do as Dee talked about, and that is find those people that are moving in the direction of more life and hopping on that train.
And my wish is, whatever stage of life you are, is to just get quiet and give yourself time to find the thing that brings you joy. And then, like Dee says, say yes. Like Alli says, surround yourself with like-minded people.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.